Dear residents of Chua Kang GRC, my name is Meng, and I'm one of the 4 candidates representing PSP competing in the GRC. Let me start by sharing briefly with you the Singapore I grew up in. I was born in 1963 as a youngest child with 3 sisters and a brother. I began my childhood then in a rented room within a shophouse at Kelantan Lane off Jalan Besar. From there, we moved into a 30 square meter HDB rental flat at Jalan Tenteram. During those days, all 7 of us would sleep on the floor, basically next to one another. By the 1970s, we shifted to another HDB rental flat at Bendemeer, slightly bigger this time, probably about 40 square meters. Life was very simple then. My father was a treasure rider and my mum was a construction site worker. They were hardly around because of work, but my first and second sisters did a good job taking care of us. We stayed at Bendemeer until my elder brother graduated from the university and together with my mum bought the family first flat in Bishan in mid-1980s. By then, I was in the university. After working for a few years, I became a proud owner of my own HDB executive flat at Woodlands in early 1990s. The point I'm trying to make is that even though life was hard, there was a lot of optimism and hope. Jobs were easy to come by, and they were all good jobs. The economy was going strong, and there was no competition from foreign talents. Life was getting better year by year. There was clearly upward social mobility. Singapore was lucky because the first generation political leaders like Lee Kuan Yew, Goh Keng Swee, Rajaratnam and Lim Kim Sam did a good job growing the economy and building really affordable housing. The policies they implemented were good for the people. That was always their first consideration. The welfare of the people came first. We were always told Singapore's greatest asset was the people. Because of those leaders' hard work and their genuine concerns for the common people, the earlier generations of Singaporeans really benefited. But things began to change after the second generation leaders took over in the early 1990s. They were beginning to focus more on monetizing the rising land value by developing the land. For example, to allow for prices of new flats to be increased substantially, HDB shifted from providing affordable housing to investment assets. That change led to rising housing prices, which now include land costs driven by market forces. In the world's economic history, housing investments has always ended up in a bubble. The reason is simple. For housing to be a good investment, prices have to keep going up. In the end, the early homeowners benefit, but homeowners that came later will be burdened with an oversized, huge housing debt. Today, affordable public housing has become really expensive. A 4-room flat can easily cost 300 to 500,000 depending on location. Many people don't realize that they also pay about 150,000 for housing loan interest. So the total cost of owning a 400,000 4-room flat can easily cost about 550,000 in the end. High mortgage payments have left many households increasingly vulnerable. When the policy of high housing prices was adopted, the assumption was that wages would continue to rise as workers grow older because of their experience and skills. This assumption is no longer valid. The long-term trend is one of rising uncertainties with regards to jobs and incomes. Indeed, The number of households in arrears of their mortgage payments has been on the rise over the years, from 21,000 in 2002 to 33,000 in 2009 at the height of the global financial crisis. Many of these households now live in HDB rental flats, which still numbered 56,000 as of early 2018. New homeowners may see values of their properties appreciate in the short term because, among other things, government pushes up population to support the rise in values of properties. But Singapore's population cannot keep growing. It is like when playing musical chair. Sooner or later, the music will have to stop. Then what? High housing costs also make our economy less resilient. In the past, every time when Singapore was hit by an economic crisis, employers' CPF contributions was cut to help businesses tide over the hard time. Today, CPF rates cannot be brought down without causing more households to default on their mortgage payments. The public housing policy today is therefore a ticking time bomb. By introducing the idea of voluntary en bloc redevelopment scheme that will happen only 20 years from now, the government is kicking the can down the road for problems today to be solved by Singapore's future governments. High housing costs and falling resale value are not the only problem Singapore faces today. Households have also been hit by rising living costs too. This is especially so after the turn of the century, when the government began pushing up rentals for retail, commercial, and industrial properties. Talk to the SMEs, and many will tell you their biggest cost component is rental. And when they pass the higher business costs to consumers, living costs spike. Meanwhile, the government also opened a floodgate for foreign workers and talents to come in. They depress wages of workers at the lower rungs and compete for jobs with Singapore's professionals, managers, executives, and technicians, or PMET in short. The current development model is therefore unfair and bad for the country and people. On the surface, everything looks glitzy and wonderful. But ask yourselves, is life better today than 20 years ago? If you are graduating from your studies soon, do you worry about finding a meaningful job that pays a decent wage? If you are a middle-class PMET now, do you worry about losing your job to a lower-cost foreign talent? If you are retiring soon or have already retired, do you worry about having enough savings to at least have a decent retirement when a big chunk of your savings is trapped in a flat with falling resale value? Or if you are a parent, do you worry about whether your children and grandchildren will still have a future in Singapore going forward? Note that all these long-term issues were already haunting us before the COVID-19 outbreak. They are not created by COVID-19 outbreak. As a former policy research fellow, I've spent the last 10 years understanding and offering policy solutions to help address issues on income inequality and public housing. Today, I'm taking a stand by offering my expertise as a PSP candidate for this election. It is therefore important for you to also take a stand now. Vote for my team and PSP so that you can have a voice in Parliament to speak up for you. Otherwise, the same policies causing all the pains will continue long after the election, hitting not only you, but also all future generations of Singaporeans to come. Singapore deserves better. We deserve better. For country, for people.